Alright class, settle down, class is in session, everyone get to your seats. Hey there YouTube, I'm Yukitsu, this is the Yukitsu Times, welcome to my channel, welcome back to Don't Starve, and my character guides. Today we're going to be talking about the new character Woodie, as well as Wickerbottom. So you can see I'm playing Wickerbottom right now. Just a quick overview of her basic abilities. She has a lot more weaknesses at the start than she has strengths, but her one strength is she doesn't require a science machine to build basic prototypes, and she doesn't need an alchemy engine to make more advanced ones, and she doesn't need a shadow manipulator at all. She can make everything that you would normally make through the shadow manipulator using just an alchemy engine. So without the science machine, I've gone ahead and built myself this backpack, which makes my adventuring just a little bit easier. A lot of the other stuff I found, but that's besides the point. Her disadvantages are a lot more serious, in my opinion. She has trouble with sleep, and she has trouble with rotten food. So if your food starts spoiling a little bit, she doesn't really get any benefit from it. And she can't sleep at night to regain her sanity, so she has some difficulty with resource management if you're trying to do huge stockpiles of things. And she has trouble recovering her sanity if she goes insane. To counteract this, she has a higher starting sanity pool of 250, which makes it a little bit easier, but on the other hand, it's much harder to get her back to full sanity once you've gone insane. So it's important that you try and keep an eye on that for her. And the biggest difficulty I have with that in particular is when you need to harvest nightmare fuel, because you need to go insane to get that stuff, and that makes it very tough for her to recover after you've done that. Now, her last advantage is the ability to create these books, and I'll discuss more about those later potentially. This is another beetle I heard. But those books are basically little spells that she can cast that are unique to her. They require papyrus and some other resources depending on which book you want to make, and they all have a very powerful effect, but they also drain a little bit of your sanity, which again, very difficult to recover for her. So that makes things like finding silk a much higher priority for Wickerbottom than it is for other characters, because you use those hats to recover sanity. It's also nice to find mushroom circles if it's the right color. That's a great way to restore sanity. Speak of the devil. Holy Jesus. Oh man, that's great. Okay, there's a green mushroom fairy ring right there, so I'll be using that. I might actually just camp by that stupid thing. Beyond that though, what you're going to be doing with Wickerbottom is probably just screwing around with spells and stuff like that. She's not exactly an intuitive or easy-to-use character just because of the way she handles resource management, and because none of her benefits really benefit newer players, in my opinion. You could argue that this earlier science machine is a little bit helpful, but honestly, most of the tier 1 stuff isn't really that necessary for the exploration phase, and once you plonk down a base, the science machine gives you pretty much everything you need except for the advanced farms. So don't get too excited about her abilities, in my opinion, if you're a newer player. They're not necessarily new player friendly. They appear at first glance, but the fact that you can't recover sanity and the fact that you have to constantly get fresh food is a real problem. What kind of character do I think she is? I think that she is going to be mostly for more advanced players to sort of have fun with. She's a lot of fun to play as. She's not necessarily the best survivor or anything. I think what you're supposed to do with her is just sort of screw around with the spells, because they're kind of interesting. They're fun to use, and that's fun to have them. They're not necessarily that powerful. You aren't going to survive through things that you would normally have an easy time with other characters. But just because you've got those as an option, she can do a lot of interesting and different things because of it. So, talking about the exploration phase here, you can build in an emergency much more advanced things than anyone else. So if you find yourself near a fight, you could potentially build log armor before you've even established a base, which means that if you do find, for example, the Clockwork Knights, which are a bit of a priority for her, you can take them out a little bit earlier than you would with another character. Now, I'm saying the Clockwork Knights are a bit of a priority for Wickerbottom because she needs a refrigerator more than other characters need it, simply because she has that difficulty with spoilage. This basically means that your exploration is going to be a little bit prolonged compared to other people's, especially because it doesn't take you as many resources to establish a base. It should mean that you can explore for a little bit longer. because you do need to have that refrigerator. You do need to have an access to reeds for the books that you're going to be using, the papyrus. So I'm just currently looking around for swamps, really. That would be the ideal. So that's going to possibly extend my exploration phase as much as 2 days, honestly. It's a pretty big deal. One of the other things that is a bit more of a priority for her is you really want to kind of find the cave system, in my opinion, just because there are a lot of fun options down there. And this is a character I think that you play for fun. You don't play her if you want to live as long as possible. Okay, so I think that's enough talking about her basic abilities and exploration for now. I'll get back to you when I get to the base building phase, which will probably actually be day 6 or 7, which is very prolonged. Hey there, and we're back. So just as I cut off there, I found the, what's it called, the chest biome, or Maxwell's biome if you want to call it that. And that means that I'm going to build myself a suit of log armor. Whoops. And try and fight the Clockwork Knights there so I can quickly grab that. Need a little bit more logs. And again, this is for the refrigeration. I was looking for the swamps, but this will definitely do. And unlike WX, I only need to kill 1 Clockwork Knight for now. If the spiders are cooperative with me, I might might just kill all of them, but you know, they don't necessarily cooperate with you when you want them to. Okay, so that and rope. So let's go refine ourselves some rope. And as you can see, this is where her ability to sort of do this comes in really handy. Otherwise, I'd have to establish a base and then come back. Okay, so they've killed that spider, but let's see if I can do a better job. Perfect. This guy's getting all up in my business. Let's go get him. I like her battlecraft combat. Okay, there we go. So nothing too bad there. Let's throw some stuff in Chester here. Okay. And that's all I can really hold for now. Okay, let's pick this back up. Gather up those gears that we just earned ourselves. Looks like those spiders did take care of something. Okay. Just want to make sure I don't pick up those evil flowers instead of the gears that I want to be picking up here. Okay, perfect. Wow, this is a lot of gears. Okay. And that'll be enough for now. We can come back there later for the rest of the floor, because I like harvesting the floor from that biome. But for now, let's go look for swamps. Oh, jeez. That'll give us a really nice sort of lead off in our progression. Anyway, let's get back to you once we get started on a base. Okay, and we're back. As you can see, it's day 6. I still have not found a good place to settle down and make a base. Well, that's not true. I found a good place to put a base, but I can't do it yet. And I think this is a good time to talk about something I said earlier, which was that, you know, actual bad spawns are incredibly rare. This is one of them. It's day 6, and I haven't actually found any rock quarries yet, which is very peculiar. And I guess I'm going to talk about sort of coping with that mechanic. Typically what you're going to find is that sometimes you just don't have some sort of critical resource. In this particular case, rocks and gold. So how am I going to really deal with that? Basically, I'm just going to keep exploring. It is going to be in the world somewhere. There are almost inevitably 3 rock quarries as far as I've been finding in worlds. And if it turns out that there aren't any, well, Wickerbottom can deal with that in her particular way because she only really needs the science machine. She can save the actual alchemy engine for much later. I can avoid building berry bushes or anything like that so that they don't get struck by lightning. And basically, continue on as I normally would other than that. So, when you've got some sort of situation where you're missing a critical resource, it's possible to find ways around that problem, or in this case, as you can see, I'm just sort of taking rocks of opportunity from these little areas. And that'll get me through well enough, honestly. But when you've got a situation where you're missing something that's vitally important, don't worry about it too much. I mean, people think that you absolutely have to have everything, and it makes the game a lot easier, but sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of a challenge for this sort of stupid reason. Oh, they killed a spider. Or they killed a pigman. That's a shame. On the plus side, though, I did find a really big swamp, so, you know, that might be my good luck karma used up for the day. But, yeah, there's a huge stretch of swamp down there, but as you can see, I haven't really found any reliable large sources of rock. I'm pretty sure I'll find it eventually, but honestly, it's taking long enough that I'm going to set up without it and then start exploring for the alchemy engine later. And you can do this with any character, honestly. You'll note that in most cases, I don't actually eat very much food from my farms. I use it as an emergency backup. So if you're in a situation, or you find yourself in a situation where you can't get that gold, you can't get those rocks for the more advanced stuff, or you can't find something for whatever it is that you want to build, don't worry about it. Just build everything else, and just build more of everything else to compensate, and then go exploring for that resource later. You should be okay. You should survive in the end, but, you know, don't panic. Carry a towel with you, don't panic. Anyway, I'll get back to you as soon as I get back to the spot where I want to build my base, and I'll see you then. Okay, and we're back. So as you can see, I'm just cutting down the trees as per usual. One of the nice things about Wickerbottom is that you can start with a shovel, so just build that right away and get to digging up those stumps instead of having to wait until your base is actually set up. Just gonna grab a few resources while I'm on the way here, but since we're only building the science engine, we don't need quite as many of those as we would normally. We've got a nice little pleasant place here. It's relatively near the fairy ring, which is to our right, and we've got a beefalo herd to that same direction, so we're going to build around here. This is a little bit too close to the beefalo, so I'll build back further down here. So, in these situations, what do you want to sort of focus on when you're building your base? You just want to try and normalize life as much as possible. You want to make your life as... Damn it, Chester. Out of the way. Out of the way. Okay. You just want to make your life as close to what you would normally have as is possible. So... Oh yeah, Chester's got that. Let's grab all that. So, I can't build the advanced farms because I can't rely on those resources being around. But I can build basic farms. So we're just going to put a couple of those down. We're just going to chop down some more trees so that we can put more of those down. And this will give you a chance to show you one of Wickerbottom's more unique features here. Let's see. One of her spells makes it so that your crops grow. It'll cost a bit of sanity, and it's not necessarily the best use of that, in my opinion, but it's interesting to use, and it's a good way to just sort of immediately get a boost to your resources when you're sort of running low, or when you want to establish yourself, or there's a variety of reasons you could decide to be doing it. But here we go. Get those down. Start working on our refrigerator. And let's walk beside this for a second to show you. As you can see, it opens up a wide variety of resource potentials here. Yeah, I think that one is lightning. I want that one, so I'll need the manure back. Okay, so let's work on our refrigerator. That was what I needed to build here. Icebox is here. That's gears and planks. Okay. Actually, let's just plant these. Okay, and a plank. Just drop that there for now. And icebox. There we go. So this is a pretty decent early setup for Wickerbottom, honestly. And we're just going to start throwing stuff in here, obviously. We're doing pretty well, so we don't have to worry too much about anything. Lots of food here. So, as you can see, we've got a fairly normal-looking base here, even though we are missing a lot of critical resources because of our inability to find that. We're compensating using Wickerbottom in this case through the fact that we don't need an alchemy engine, and we can do this. Applied horticulture. Okay, let's read this. There we go. As you can see, a really useful ability here. The more farms you have, the better that honestly is. So when I did it there, not that many plants around, so it's not that useful. But as you can see as well, it has 5 uses. So one of the things that you can do is just get a huge number of farms and instantly cause all of them to cycle over. It's a really powerful ability for Wickerbottom. So, and as you can see, not too big a hit to my sanity yet. So that is one of those ways that I'm going to sort of compensate for that early bungle, I guess, of not being able to find those rocks. And that'll give me the resources I need to go and collect more gold somewhere else if I can find it. So that's sort of my look at Wickerbottom. I think she's an interesting sort of fun character to use. Try her out and try out those books that she has. A lot of them are pretty fun to use, but not necessarily all that useful. The one that causes a whole bunch of tentacles to come about, not necessarily all that useful when you typically end up having to fight tentacles, or, you know, the lightning one that burns down your entire base because you cast it to try and defend yourselves against the wolves. Don't do that. The books that she uses are kind of risky since they all have this sort of potential to screw you over if you use them incorrectly, but other than that, I mean, she's a pretty interesting character. I highly recommend you just sort of try her for fun. But I think that there's no reason you couldn't survive a long time with her. It's just that other people are better suited for that, in my opinion. Anyway, that's my look at Wickerbottom. Let's move on over to Woodie. Hey there, YouTube. Welcome back. This is the new character, Woodie. He's the final character I'll be discussing in my little go-through of all the different characters. That being because the last two are sort of spoiler secrets for the adventure mode if you haven't played through it yet, and because they haven't really changed much since their last iteration, so nothing much to discuss since that last patch. And frankly, I don't like either of them anyway. So, this is Woodie. He's a lumberjack, and he starts with this nice red-headed fire axe here. And his basic bonus is that he gets to chop down trees really, really, really quickly, which isn't actually all that helpful in and of itself. His other benefit is that on full moons or something like that, or after he's chopped down enough trees, he transforms into a beaver. And the benefit of that is you can sort of see at night, you lose all your inventory, but you're able to chomp through stuff. Your basic attacks are like tentacle spikes, and I think you can't actually die when you're in beaver form. I think you just get turned back into Woodie at the end of it. Now, when you're adventuring, since you start with an axe, you don't have to build one, but that's about it. And since I don't really build an axe until I've actually found a place to settle, his ability doesn't help with the adventuring portion of this game at all. What I think it's going to help for is if you're playing in adventure mode and you end up in one of the winter or cold maps, he's going to be a little bit more useful there. Since those cold maps, you have such a limited amounts of time, and you've got such a limited inventory set, having an unlimited axe, since his red fire axe doesn't ever break, is very helpful, and being able to chop through those trees without having to worry about replacing your axes constantly lets you avoid biomes that you would otherwise have to look for flint in, and it lets you build all sorts of other things instead. So, oh wow, we're just finding Maxwell's biome really quickly these days. We're also finding the rock biomes this time, which obviously didn't happen for Wickerbottom. Anyway, just going to run around and find out where we're going to settle down. Since his big advantage is based around trees, you don't have to build anywhere special to cater for that for Woodie. The reason being that you can always use pine cones to plant down a huge forest of trees basically wherever the heck you want one. So he can have his benefit in any biome, essentially. Just build your forest with all those trees wherever the heck you want, and it'll be fine. Now, other than the axe, his beaver ability is a little bit odd to me. I'm not certain I view it as useful. It is definitely a benefit being able to turn into that sort of combat beaver, and you can actually destroy a lot of resources very quickly, like trees. You can mine rocks very quickly, but the problem is you can't pick anything up really when you're in beaver form. So you've got this sort of weird situation where you can quickly, say, kill a whole bunch of spiders just by swiping at them with your beaver paws, I guess? I don't really know. And find yourself in a situation where you can't really capitalize on that all that effectively. So not really all that worthwhile, I think. What I hope he'll be good at is adventure mode. I haven't tried this out yet personally. I suspect that his ability to chop down trees very quickly is going to make him really powerful in those King of Winter situations, or Cold Reception, or any other one where you're going to have to be putting down a lot of fires. Other than that, though, adventuring around, it's going to be exactly the same as normal. As you can see, I haven't chopped down a single tree still. We'll get back to that later when I get back to base building, and I will see you around for that. Okay, and we're back. You know what I've decided? You've seen enough of making very basic bases. You know what to look for. You all know what's up here. So what we're going to do is start chopping down trees really quickly here. And the reason we're going to be doing this is this demonstrates pretty well, I think, how fast he is at chopping down these trees. Much, much faster than other standard characters. As you can see, your axe is going to talk to you as you chop down these trees. And it's going to warn you when you're starting to change into a beaver. Which is apparently something the axe doesn't like, I guess. I don't know. So, looks like we're getting a bit closer to that stage. Our axe is warning us that is so. But let's just continue on here. We'll show you what that looks like. Yeah. This goes down if you wait a little bit, so you can avoid this by not chopping down trees too quickly. There we go. There you can see us gnawing away at everything as our beaver form, and in this form you can eat wood. As you can see, we've got a wood meter instead of a hunger or sanity or health meter. Running around like this, we can gnaw things, and that actually is the same as destroying it in this case. And if you do that, you can actually eat things like berry bushes. So try not to actually gnaw at certain things. But as you can see, you can keep extending this, and if you actually do this, it's a good way to extend the duration of the effect if you happen to want to be in beaver form. You're fairly good at combat, and since hits take away from your wood meter instead of your health meter, it's a pretty fast and efficient way to actually heal back up. Just get in a fight with something that's in a lot of trees. As you can see, there's a nice little sepia filter here. So, you know, this is just a typical day amongst the Canadians. This happens all the time to us Canadians. So, you know, you should be used to this. You should know exactly what this is like. One of the other things that's a bit peculiar is you can also gnaw boulders like this. So, rocks, as you can see there. I'm not sure what else you can eat. Let's see if you can... Oh, let's just get this, actually. Oh, you can also get the stumps. I did not notice that. Okay, let's go gnaw this beefalo. Okay. As you can see, these guys, like, Woodie in this beaver form is tough. Like, one of the benefits of him is that you can sort of just chew his way through all the stuff and really just kill enemy monsters very effectively. Oh. And we'll run away here, since this is a little bit too much for me to handle here. And as you can see, I've run out of... Oh, this is actually a bad place to respawn. Ah! Okay, so now we're back to Woodie, and as you can see, once you've respawned in this form, you start off with very low health, stamina, and sanity. That's the downside to doing this. Where did I leave all my junk? Way the heck up there. Okay, the easiest way to find your stuff after you've turned into a beaver and have thereafter run off into the wild like a raving lunatic or whatever, is to look on the map, and you'll find this little red axe icon. It's very conspicuous. It will always show up on the map, so you don't have to worry too much about where your stuff is after this transformation has occurred. Now, obviously, unless you're somewhat established, you want to actually avoid letting this happen. As you can see here, I'm very, very much sort of screwed, and I actually would not allow this to happen in a normal playthrough. But it's one of those things that I want to sort of showcase. Now that we have gone through all that trouble, let's go collect all that meat from those beefaloes. Waste not, want not, and what have you. But yeah, as you can see, just not necessarily doing all that well after that, so try not to let this happen. It will happen naturally, if I recall, every full moon. I don't actually remember. I don't really like playing Woodie. This is sort of one of the earlier playthroughs I've done with him. I haven't done as much testing with him as I'd honestly have liked to, but it seems like he's otherwise a pretty bog standard character. You just want to make sure you get the most out of when you are forced into being a beaver for whatever reason, like say you need a ton of wood really quickly for some reason. Just make sure you make the most of it. Make sure that you get as much out of that in terms of resources as is possible. So, okay, so let's just leave those there for now. And anyway, I think this has been a pretty decent showcase of all the characters that have come out in Don't Starve, and I think that will be enough for now. So I hope you found this all informative, and I hope to see you all next time.